More time passes. Your village is now a large town surrounded by smaller hamlets, like a city with suburbs.
Look,
The new
the pile
foundation of
grows.
power
More
is
food.
controlling good
Bring
land.
more.
And most
Wow,
importantly,
so big.
having a
It's
giant
a
pile of
mountain.
food.
Nug, nug.
Your society
Nug,
is a
nug, nug, nug.
chiefdom.
Ugh,
And
nug,
you,
nug, nug.
my friend,
Nug, nug,
are
nug,
the
nug.
chief. Your leadership is no longer temporary. It's a permanent, full-time office. And there's a good chance your kid is going to inherit it. So you'd better hope they're not a complete doofus. People don't just respect you, they technically work for you. Your life is now a complex mess of politics and economics. Farmers bring you a portion of their harvest as tribute. You're expected to collect all this stuff, but also to give it back. You host enormous,
feast begin.
ruinously expensive
More
feasts
food.
to prove
Can't
your
stop
generosity
eating.
and keep everyone
We're so
loyal.
full.
You fund artists and weaponsmiths and oversee huge public works projects like giant walls or ceremonial mounds. Your authority also gets a divine upgrade. You might be seen as the main go-between with the gods, and your attendance at ceremonies
yow.
is considered essential for cosmic
early for
stability.
this.
This sacred role makes you seem special and helps justify why you have a slightly bigger hut than everyone else. But this new power is a heavy burden. You are responsible for thousands of people. If the harvests fail, your people might
This is
see
your
it as a
fault.
sign.
Why didn't you
You've
stop
lost the
this? We're
divine
doomed.
Wi-Fi
Now
signal.
what?
Ambitious rivals from other fancy
coming.
families
Rub your
are
hands together,
always
plan
waiting
begins.
for you to slip up. Your power is greater, but so is the chance of a coup. Then, a drought hits. Panic spreads. Your storehouses are looking thin, and a rival family starts
never
whispering that the
have a bad
spirits
feeling
are
about this.
clearly not pleased with your
Oh,
management
no.
style. You can't just go hunt more food. You have to manage a full-blown crisis. You order crews to dig irrigation canals. You lead ridiculously grand ceremonies to beg the gods for rain. Finally, you open your personal stash, giving your own grain to the most desperate families. It's a massive gamble that weakens you personally, but reinforces the main idea of your rule. You are the provider. When the rains finally return, your job is safe for now. The line between chiefdom and state is blurry, drawn in blood and written in law. Your success has become absolute. You are no longer a chief who provides. You are a king who rules. Your authority isn't a performance review anymore. It's an institution. As a monarch or the head of a ruling class, your kid isn't just likely to inherit the throne, it's now the law. And if
shouldn't
they're
be here.
a complete doofus, well,
Beat it,
that's what
kid.
advisors
Wait,
and a
look what I
ruthless
found.
secret
It's really
police
cool.
are. For your power no longer rests on generosity or divine favor, though you'll keep the fancy hat for the ceremonies. It rests on a professional apparatus of power. You have an army. There's a bunch of angry villagers. It's a standing force, loyal only to you and their paycheck. You have courts that enforce your laws, not ancient customs. And you have a bureaucracy and army of clerks and tax collectors who ensure the wealth of the nation flows
Oh, no,
in one
they're
direction
tipping.
up. You now hold a monopoly on the legitimate
stay
use of
there.
force, which is a fancy way of saying anyone else who solves problems with violence is a criminal. But when you do it, it's called governance. The social
my
fabric
lord.
has been
Anything to spare?
rewoven into clear,
Get a
antagonistic classes. There are those who own the land and those who work it, masters and slaves, landlords and peasants. The gap between you and the common farmer is no longer a slightly bigger hut, it's a chasm, protected by stone walls and armed guards. Political
please, just
power
listen to me.
is completely divorced from the
forget it.
masses.
Nobody's home.
You don't need to persuade anyone at a town meeting anymore, because there are no more town meetings. Let's revisit that drought. As a chief, you gambled your personal wealth to keep people from revolting. Now, as king, you don't open your personal stash. You
Please,
send the tax
spare my only
collectors,
grain.
backed by soldiers, to
That's what they
seize
all
what
say.
little grain is
Now
left,
march.
because the needs, the state funding your army, building your new palace come first. A famine is a tragedy, but it's no longer a direct threat to your rule. It's just a line item in the yearly report. Your power is structural, absolute, and enforced by a system designed to keep you on top, no matter the human cost. You are laid to rest in a monumental tomb, perhaps a pyramid, a symbol of a power so absolute it could command a generation to build your eternal home. You were more than a chief. You became the state itself. Your life tells the story of power et self, how it morphs from earned trust between equals to the centralized, coercive authority of a ruler who is fundamentally separate from their people.